Hello everybody, for today's lesson we're going to be talking about navigational aids, tracking and intercepting and tracking navigational systems in DME arcs. So in the air, we have a lot of navigational systems. The main ones that we use here in Bakersfield are going to be VORs, ILS localizer, and we're going to be using a GPS as well. So let's say we wanted to tune into the Shafter VOR. We know that as we look at our chart, that 115.4 is going to be the Shafter VOR. We can even listen into this to ensure that this is the correct VOR by listening to our navigation system as we're tuned into that Shafter and listening for the Morse code for that. Now that we're tuned into Shafter, let's say we want to fly direct to, we're able to click with our G1000 on the course pair and actually fly a direct course to that VOR. If we want to fly a different radial, we'll go ahead and plug that in, and it'll either say to or from as we're flying through. In order to detect distance, our G1000 is able to use DME through GPS to determine distance from a certain point. So let's say we're flying an approach and our missed approach point is 16.6 from Shafter. If we did not plug in the approach and followed it with GPS as a backup, we're able to know that with our GPS and our G1000 that it will tell us the distance from that Shafter VOR, from wherever VOR that we're shooting the approach from, and we'll be able to determine points like that. Another way to determine points is cross-referencing. So if we're on this Victor Airway tuned into the Shafter, and we're also tuned into Thule in the background, we know once they connect on the 203 and the 324 that we'll be able to determine that we're triangulated right here using two VORs to cross-reference our distance and from our point. For GPS, similarly, instead of plugging in certain codes, we're able to just plug in the exact waypoints. So on flight plan, it has the origin, the en route, and the arrival from as we're plugging it in. So on our G1000, we're able to plug in these waypoints and say, let's say we want to go to direct RDI. So we'll go ahead, type it in on there, and we're able to fly direct to. Again, the VOR, the Instrument Flying Handbook explains a lot about this, a lot more in depth, all the components, how exactly everything works. But again, so yeah, you have your heading, your lever line, your heading select bug, your compass card telling you where you're at, your course deviation telling you whether or not you're on that exact radial or to the left, to the right, how far. The course selector pointer telling us that we're selected onto the 270 course, and again, the deviation scale as well. And then the selected heading. It's always a good habit as you're flying to click on the heading that you're flying on. So let's say we want to fly this radial of 270. We're going to go ahead and put the heading at 270 because if we ever wanted to throw on autopilot and for some reason we have it plugged in all the way to the left, all the way to the right, southbound, eastbound, whatever, as we shoot it, if we accidentally left it on the heading bug, it's going to turn us over to that heading instead of flying the navigation that we want. Another thing to note about the G1000s is when flying VORs, we're going to be on green needles. In order to swap these, we can click the CDI to change it from VOR1, VOR2, which is reading off our nav2 or whatever we're plugged into there, or GPS, which is going to be purple. And for shooting approaches, it's always a good, that helps me, the colors are a great way to remember whether or not you're on glide slope or glide path, as path, purple, both start with P. Nice little note there. So again, positioning, we talked about that. For intercepting, you want to go ahead and shoot a offset, usually 20 degrees, 30 degrees towards that radial that you're heading into. And as you're flying towards it, you're going to want to be able to cut in at the right time. If you turn too late, you're going to go past it. You turn too early, you're not going to intercept the radial, and you're still going to be off that exact radial. But as you're tracking, just maintain that drift. Again, the thing with radials is you might not be flying the exact heading as you're going down that radial. Radials do not adjust for wind, so we need to be able to adjust for that wind. As you can see here, they're flying that heading, but with the wind drift pushing them down the radial, they're adjusting from or to or from that radio. So again, understanding wind drift and the en route navigation as you're flying these navigational systems. Amazing thing about our G1 or GP or our G1000 and its use of GPS is it can adjust for these wind drifts and tell you the exact heading you should be holding, or the wind's pushing you from, where to, and if you're plugging stuff in on the GPS can even show you what the track will look like, especially as you're getting into our next point, holding procedures. Holding procedures, not as complicated as some like to put. Again, it could be a difficult thing to learn, especially unpublished holds, but going through holds is not that hard once you understand exactly how they work. An amazing part of this is being able to know exactly where you're at. Are you on the holding side, which is the safe side, the non-holding side, which is the unsafe side? Are you inbound, outbound? The heading course that you're on, the exact fix that you're holding from, and whether or not you're beamed that. So, let's say we're flying a hold on, let's go with shafter, which is going to be right here. So let's say you're on the shafter VOR heading on a 1402. As you're holding, let's say you're going to do a direct entry, so you're already behind and on the safe side. You're on the inbound safe. You're going to come in. Once you cross that fix, you're going to time, or I usually like to time a 1 minute turn. You still have to do a standard rate turn, and it's whatever you reach last is either level wings or beam the fix. Once you do that, you'll go ahead and time it, so you'll fly straight for another minute. And then once that minute hits, start the inbound turn, time it again. We do these times in order to figure out whether or not wind's pushing us towards our fix, away from our fix. If we're getting pushed away from it, so let's say we're flying outbound and we have a tailwind, obviously it's going to take longer for us to get inbound, so we know to shoot this shorter to make it a 1 minute back in. If we have a headwind, so let's say we're getting pushed in and it's been a minute, we're coming in, this is 55, we know to shoot this for 5 seconds longer now that we're adjusting for the wind to make the inbound exactly 1 minute. Let's see, looking for my next reference, apologies. And again, these can be done at any fixes, so VORs, certain waypoints, even on my GPS waypoints, this can be done. An amazing thing with our G1000 is if you plug in that waypoint, you could add a hold to that waypoint, and it will show you how far that track is, when to start turning, especially for missed approaches. Is today I just shot the VOR 3.3 into Delano, and when you're shooting that missed approach, you're doing a hold. It shows you exactly how that hold's going to look, how the wind adjusts for it, and the timings for it too. It'll tell you exactly when to turn. Now, so again, you want to adjust your speeds prior. Normally we shoot approaches at 90 after the final approach fix, so holding at 90 is perfectly fine. And we talked about the direct, but we also have to talk about the two other entries, which everybody gets confused about, is teardrop and parallel. Easiest way to remember it. If you're behind it, you're usually entering direct. If you're in front of it and away from where you're turning, you're doing a teardrop. If you're in front of it and on the safe side, again, this is why I like using the safe, because you're in the inside holding side, you're going to go ahead and shoot a parallel. A parallel is going to be flying to that fix, flying down it for a minute, turning back in to intercept, and then hitting that fix, doing the normal hold. A teardrop entry is going to be different. You're going to hold that fix and hold a 30 degree offset, and you're going to shoot it for a minute, turn back in, and basically intercept the fix again. The parallel, you're flying on the inbound leg backwards and shooting it back, and the teardrop, you're flying past it and turning back in almost like a U-turn. Simple as that. When it comes to unpublished holds, so yeah, again, a minute, this is standard for us as we fly. You always time your outbound and your inbound legs to adjust for the wind. I also like timing the turns as well, because what it does is it helps me remember to constantly use that timer. You could fly inbound, and if you're not timing your turn, you might not look at your thing and realize, oh, I only clicked reset. I only clicked reset. I didn't restart the timer. What happens a lot, especially with these G1000s, is once you start it, it'll start the time. You can click stop, you can click restart, and then you can click start again. What happens is people will stop it, restart it, and they won't restart the timer and actually start it again, and they'll mess up their time. Again, another reason why you should plug it in with the GPS and use that as a backup, because that GPS is going to catch the errors that you might miss. And I mean, it's just an amazing tool that we can use. For unpublished holds, you will get usually a heading to fly to or get near, and once you're near the fix, they'll tell you to fly this certain leg. This certain bearing. So let's say they're going to have you fly bearing them at 360 to it, and you're going to do standard turns holding to the northwest side. So we know we're holding towards the northwest side. We know we're on bearing 360, and we know our standard turns are actually going to be right turns for us. So depending on where we are, we might be coming in for a teardrop. We might be coming in for a direct if we're coming from behind. Again, there's an amazing website online that shows this, but it'll show you exactly whether or not you have to enter parallel if you're on the inside, teardrop if you're coming from the outside, or direct if you're coming from under it. Published. I'm going to see if I can find that website, because it's an amazing website for us, or for me at least. Here we go. Practice holds. There we go. And again, I love this. So let's say EHF for shafter, flying approach course to 360, hold northwest of shafter, bearing 120 left turns, and it'll show you, okay, you're coming in from this approach course, holding northwest, the bearings 120. You'll be coming in for a teardrop, or you'll be coming in for the parallel or the direct. You can allow it. It's unspecified whether or not it's going to be left turns, right turns, or if it says nothing, it's always going to be right because that's standard. You could do random entries or random radials. Let's say another one. Okay, hold south of shafter, radial 200 from the approach coast 120, right turns. And it will show you, okay, you're going to be coming in direct. It's a little close, but... so yeah, an amazing tool for unpublished holds, and I think that's going to cover everything we need to cover. So intercepting, tracking radials, direct 2, you have options, you have GPS, VORs with our G1000s, you can plug things in on the ForeFlight and even connect your iPad to the G1000. And for holds are simple. It just depends whether or not you're on the inbound, the outbound side, the holding side, the non-holding side, safe and unsafe, and whether or not you're coming from the inbound, the outbound, behind the fix or in front of the fix. And that'll be it for today.